When I was 15, life was tough for my parents. My father, desperate to secure a better future for me, came up with what he believed was the perfect solution, sending me to the city to stay with OGA RUFUS so I could continue my education. My name is Candy. Though I'm only 15, I looked much older. My body developed early. My breasts are full and heavy, as if they were being pumped, and my hips are wide, making my thick. Because of this, I have many suitors who want to marry me, but my father refuses. Despite our poverty, he insists that marriage is not the answer. He wants something better for me, an education, a future where I can lift my family out of hardship. That morning, the sun rose with a golden glow as my father and I climbed onto the same bike, heading to the park where I would board a bus from Benue to Abuja. The ride was silent, filled with unspoken emotions. When we arrived, we got down from the bike, and I clutched my small gonna must go bag tightly. My father paid for my bus fare, then turned to me with a serious expression. He placed his hand on my shoulders and gave me his final words of advice, words I knew I had to hold on to in the days ahead. Before I knew it, I was seated in the bus with a few other passengers. As the engine roared to life, I leaned out of the window, waving at my father until he became just a blur in the distance. And just like that, my journey to the unknown began. The journey from Benue to Abuja was long and tiring. I sat by the window, watching the trees and houses blur past as we sped down the road. My mind was restless, filled with thoughts about what awaited me in the city. Would OGA RUFUS be kind? Would I be treated well? Would I truly get the education my father promised? A woman sitting next to me noticed my silence and smiled. "First time traveling alone?" she asked. I nodded. "Don't worry, my dear. The city is different from the village, but you'll get used to it." I only forced a small smile in return. I wasn't sure if getting used to it would be easy. Arriving in Abuja, it was evening when the bus finally arrived at the park in Abuja. The city was bigger and noisier than anything I had ever seen. The tall buildings, bright lights, and endless movement of cars overwhelmed me. As I stepped out of the bus, I clutched my gonna must go bag tightly and looked around, searching for OGA RUFUS. I had never met him before, but my father assured me that he was a good man. After a few minutes, a tall, dark-skinned man in his late 40s approached me. He wore a long-sleeve shirt and trousers, his stomach round like he had eaten well all his life. His eyes scanned me up and down, lingering a little too long on my chest. "You must be Candy," he said, his deep voice carrying authority. "Yes, sir," I responded quietly. "Good?" He nodded. "Your father has told me a lot about you. Come, let's go home." I followed him to his car, a black Toyota parked nearby. As he drove, he keeps staring strangely at me through the glass while he licks his lips seductively. I stared out the window uncomfortably, taking in the city. Everything felt strange, exciting, yet scary at the same time. Finally, we arrived at his house, a large compound with high fences and a big iron gate. It was nothing like the small mud house I had left behind. "Welcome home, my Candy," OGA RUFUS said, clicking his tongue, making me uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, sir. It's Candy, not Candy," I corrected, taking my gonna must go bag, but he kept peering at my heavy breasts. "Forgive my manners. Come, let me take you to your room," he said, taking me inside. After taking my dinner, which was rice and stew, I took a shower, said a few prayers, and slept on the fluffy bed. That was the first time I have ever laid my back on a soft, big bed. I miss my parents and siblings, I thought, and drafted to sleep. Few hours later, I felt a cold hand on my back. Follow for part 2.